Okay, let's get on to the modifications portions here. This is some stuff you want to do before you paint it. Now I've already discussed how to put the prop on, the T28 prop, to give you a little more speed, and I definitely noticed a difference by putting a 30 amp speed controller in, and I run my airplanes with 2200 25C batteries and 2250 30C batteries, and running that with a 30 amp speed controller and T28 prop against a stock gunfighter Mustang, there was a definite speed difference in it. Okay, getting to the battery hatch, this is one that I learned from Hoverfly on RC Groups, was to cut the tub out and make room. If you have an issue with CG, you can lay your battery down flat in here instead of up here in the front. That should balance it out. Now, something interesting I found is I didn't have to do that. Now, I don't know if it's because I got a rudder servo in mine, and that might have, I don't know, gave it the balancing out, but I actually still put my batteries all the way forward. And but anyway, I'll get to that. But how to cut this out, one of the things I left out of the materials that you're going to need is a hobby knife and a razor and a full-on razor blade. What I did is just took a razor blade and I cut little grooves going this way about 1/4 of an inch apart, and then cut perpendicular about the same way, 1/4 inch, and then just went up underneath it with the knife and just scooped out the squares. And I just cut it down to about that depth to match kind of the rest of the inside here. That whole thing only took probably 2-3 minutes to do, so it's a real quick, easy mod. Slap yourself some Velcro down, you're good to go. Now, like I said, I actually put my battery all the way forward, and I don't notice a CG issue at all in flight. I can pretty much have the trims neutral, bring the airplane back to 1/2 or 3/4 throttle, take my hands off the sticks, and it'll stay straight. So you're probably going, okay, well then you put a battery in, it's going to stick up. Well, that's right. So what I did is I cut out some foam right up here in the front to accommodate the corner of the battery sticking up. Now that hole there, it's all plugged back up, is what I mentioned earlier, where I had a camera shoved up in there. So, but anyway, yeah, I run my batteries all full forward, and I don't have any issues with any of them. I upgraded to the 30 amp, backwards here, the E-Flight 30 amp speed controller. Great speed controller. We have these in all of our Mustangs. My brother has 2, I got 3, so all 5 have them in it. That's the mod to the battery hatch. And I'm going to go ahead and debunk a few myths here and cover a couple of things before we dive into the actual stripping down of the decals and all that. The brownout issue that I was telling you about earlier was actually caused by process of elimination. I came to the conclusion was caused by the ESC I was running at the time. I'm not going to say which brand of ESC it was, because it may have just been the batch that I had. But essentially, if you do have a brownout issue on, it only happened to me on launching. It's the exception of one flight where it happened after I'd gone around the pattern a couple times. You can save yourself by quickly resetting the throttle, even on launch. As long as you got about 10-15 feet of altitude, chop your throttle, push it all the way back up. Now I actually cycle it twice to regain everything back. In a brownout, you suddenly lose power, you have no control over the airplane. It's like you pretty much like lost everything. But you don't actually lose signal. And what happens is it just shuts down the power. So you can cycle your throttle and get the airplane back. And I've saved 2 of them that way, and I crashed 2 of them because I forgot to do that. So anyway, that's how you can say the brownout issue. But how I came to the conclusion it was the ESC was I took the particular brand ESC that we were using in these at the time, and I put one in the same one. I put on 2 different ones actually. I put on one airplane and put one on another airplane, and both of those airplanes developed problems. The motors ran rough. I had all kinds of issues with them, and since I pulled those ESCs out of service and put different ones in place, I have not had a problem since. Okay, so that should cover that. I did do the rudder mod. One of the other things I did too, I forgot to mention here, is I replaced the elevator servo with a Metal Gear digital servo. Just it's a little smoother, and this particular one is a HS81, and I just got a generic Dynam servo over here for the rudder. I really don't use my rudder that much. What I do for the rudder, you kind of follow the instructions on cutting it out, but I don't use the foam hinge. I use CA hinges. They're a little fiber hinge, put a drop of CA on. Once you get the rudder cut out, just cut right straight down, cut all that, kind of round off that square a bit, and come down and cut everything out, and just line your hinges up, cut your notches in the trailing edge of the tail, the leading edge of the rudder, get them lined up, slide it on, no problem. They're very strong. So that's the mod I did to the rudder, that's the mod to the battery hatch, the servos, the propeller, the motor. It's a stock motor. This is still running on the same motor for the last 93 flights from day one. Everything's going good, and like I said, kind of debunked the myth on the paint. This plane has 4 layers of paint on it, and it's one of the fastest Mustangs that I have. So she's good to go. Alright, I think that covers everything. I did not do the tape on the elevator. I haven't had a problem with my elevators at all. I probably should do that, but the newer ones have some tape on them. I think we've covered everything there. So let's go ahead and move on to removing the decals.